John taught me this great process that you have to do so you don't have to measure. It's a simple way to grid. So I put that onto the black and white copy, and then I do the same grid on the canvas. And if you look on here, you can see some of the lines from the grid still, if you get up close. And then I draw it on with pencil, soft leaded pencil, so that I can erase it, hopefully. And so I get the picture as perfect as I can, because if I don't get the drawing right, then the painting won't be right. And it's so much more tedious to have to correct the painting than just to have the picture right. So I go ahead and draw it on. And then I will usually work by applying dark, light, and medium colors. So you probably can't see this terribly well, but this was the beginning of this painting, and it's basically, I had a sense of the tones that I wanted to be working with. And I applied the light, medium, and dark so that I established those right away. And it's kind of miraculous. As soon as you get the values right, which is the light, medium, dark, the painting happens. It's like, it's just details after that. So, and then I work from there to just, this is such a large canvas that I couldn't cover the whole canvas in one day. I did apply all this, but then this took maybe 4 or 5 hours. And then I would come back and I would just work, like one day I did this breast, because it takes a long time to cover this much canvas. And then I did her belly one day, and then I did her leg one day, and then I did this. And then once I got the whole thing covered twice, then I went back and worked on other details again. And my colors had gotten not quite completely cohesive, and so I would put a glaze on, which means a very light covering of a color so that I could get my colors to match. I don't think this piece is completely finished, but Petie had asked me to bring it, so I wanted to just bring it so you could see something in progress. It is totally wet, so please be aware of that, and if you touch it, you'll get paint on your fingers and on your clothes, so please be careful. I found that the photograph I was working from was about, it was 8 by 8, and it wasn't large enough, so I had to enlarge the hands and the foot, or the hand and the foot, so that I could see them better, because I wasn't nailing them. And so I blew those up so that I could paint those. So today I would that was my day, it was my hand and my foot. So that's how I got those. And then I was working on the floor as well. And so I'll just work on whatever area kind of calls to me right then, but try to restrict myself to an area that I feel like I can finish in the amount of time that I have. And then I kind of have a feeling about when it's finished. And then I stop and I sign it on the back and let it dry.
Fascinated by your lighting. That picture over there that's such different lighting than that piece, which is so different from her and so different from this, and I love the way you use colors. Can you talk a little bit about, do you actually light those photographs that close to that way and then decide how to apply color?
I light the models as I photograph them. And so I have a very crude lighting system. I haven't gotten professional on that one yet. And so I'll have my clip-on lights on my easel stand, my whatever I can find, my tripod. And I'll go around, I'm changing the lights. I unplug this one and I go over and I turn this one on. And so, I'm just doing that while I'm photographing them. And then if I want slightly more dramatic lighting, I'm getting a little bit of competence with Adobe Photoshop, and so I might up the contrast a little bit. And then I'm actually very, very good at copying what I see, and I'm actually not very good at making up what I don't see. So these look a lot like the photographs, and I'm really not that good at painting what's not there.
I read a quotation somewhere that I'm going to probably butcher, but it was comparing Asian culture with American culture, and saying that Asians are not afraid of showing their bodies, but they don't like to show their emotions. And we don't want to show our bodies, but we do.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a nice insight, and I'm sure that it's probably also true that we're selective about what emotions we show as well as we are selective about what body parts we show. Certainly people of a certain age who are, let's say, good looking, don't mind showing a whole lot of their bodies. And that's one of the contradictions of living in today's world, that we are both constantly confronted with sexual expression and yet constantly turning away from it. And we haven't answered those questions as a society, but as artists we keep asking the question.
I've had very interesting conversations with a German woman who's my contemporary. I tutor her in English. And I've lived in Germany for a long time, which may be one reason that I'm more comfortable with body issues and stuff, because they are in Germany. There are nude beaches. It just isn't an issue. You know, women swim without their tops, even at normal pools that aren't nude beaches. And she said that in catalog, we were reading something in the paper about, what is it, the Vermont company or something. They had just started selling adult sexual aids, and so many people wrote them and said, get me out of your catalog, I don't want this smut here, I don't want my children seeing this smut. And this German woman was like, what is the big deal? I mean, our Sears catalog had dildos in it. I'm like, wow. She said, so when we were kids, we'd just be looking through it and we'd find, I mean, it's like us looking at the underwear ads in Sears, you know? Didn't you as kids always go, oh, that's what bras look like? You know? And she'd say, oh, that's what dildos are. Well, that's kind of cool. And then move on to the toys, you know? And she said, that's just part of what you grow up with. It's just part of life. And people are just naked. She said she watched a movie in Germany and she watched one here. And here they had this big black thing in front of breasts on the screen. And she's like, God, that's really in the way. And in Germany, it was just mom.
Since we're getting off the subject of naked men and women, I would like to explore, or have you explore, as one of my 3 children, I had not a clue you were going to grow up to be an artist. And I think it's really interesting, and I'm not sure I know myself, since you explored music and language and teaching and engineering and all those subjects, and never explored art when you were young particularly, what tipped you over the edge to be an artist? And when? Can you identify that?
The moment. Yeah. Yeah. When I was living on my own, my husband had left me with 3 small children, and so my kids were going over to his house half the time and staying with me half the time. And I was desperately lonely and sad. And so a friend of mine introduced me to polymer clay, and I started making polymer clay jewelry, which I still have in a couple galleries around town. And it was so much fun that very soon my dining room table was full of sculpey canes, and then I had to start selling it because I couldn't use all of them. So I got into a gallery, and then I got arthritis in my hands, and I started drawing because I couldn't do clay anymore, and then I started painting. And so it was out of a desire to have something to do with my free time that was creative.
Do you find much success when someone else has a photograph for you to paint from? Do you have a problem with that?
I have never done it.
Yeah.
I think when I teach art, and when I teach my students, I am really particular about asking them to bring in a photograph they have taken. Yeah. Because I think the composition that we each create with the camera, and we have so much more affinity for it, and so I feel like the process is more complete when it starts with an image that we've created as well. So I wouldn't know what to do with the photographs somebody else has done. Any other questions? Well, thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope we can continue this discussion with you individually as we continue the evening.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.